This attire is meant for temple puja. Okay. This one I can use it for
this. Just this for going forward.
Okay, that's nice.
This is going backwards.
That's nice. And this is pointer.
That's a pointer, but sometimes
No, I don't need.
you don't need it.
I don't need.
Don't use this.
I-
Just only this. two.
Yes. The logi. I think we will start from the lecture point of view, the prayer and meditation. Let's be off the grid. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Go back. Slate.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Sahana Bhavatu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukhaswarupaya Swami Tapaharini. Close your eyes and sit for meditation. Let the mind drift, even for a while. Don't try to control. But do not pursue any thought. Be the witness of all the thoughts that comes to the mind, and simply watch the mind drifting. Hold on to the idea that you are not the mind. Picture the mind as a calm lake stretched before you, and the thoughts are like bubbles that come and go. Rising and breaking. forming and dissolving. Let the thoughts float away from your mind. Be conscious that you are the observer. And let peace reign in the mind henceforth. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. However we call, the topic we have chosen is very imposing and very compelling, that how much ever we deliberate on this, we find that there is still much more to do. We will not be exhausting the ideas or the content or even the application. Such is the topic which, to be contained in a 45-minute talk, is not going to be the objective again. So if we can have some stimulating questions within us, certain of which should be actionable, certain of which should be inspiring, certain of which should be posing serious thoughts, unanswered questions, so to say, for the future reckoning. If we can achieve this, then I would consider this presentation is accomplished. Strength in the pursuit of excellence, musings of Vivekananda. Why strength should be a topic at all, and that too a topic among the youth, where the youth by itself is a clear verdict and a symbol of strength. If at all we want to find strength, we have to find them in the youth, in the growth, in the evolution. Because that's the age when we, as any living being for that matter, does not care for the morrow. We just don't care for the morrow. You know what morrow is? Morrow is actually tomorrow. The youth is the one which completely lives in the present. They have so much of energy within them, they have so much of creativity and growth, both biologically as well as psychologically, that they are very much engaged in the present. So, why to talk about strength among the youth when they are the true source of the deliberation of strength, the presentation of strength? You know, Swami Vivekananda similarly brought out a wonderful clarion call. It's best read out the way as he has said. Give me 100 believing young men, I will transform India into #1 nation in the entire world. So he did not ask for 100 young strong men, because there is no dart for strength, apparently, because strength is understood in each one by in his own way. But then he put in this word 100 believing young men. The youth characterizes the strength. Young in, is it body or mind? Well, that needs to be deliberated upon. But another interesting idea of believing young men he put into as an adjective. So, and he says, if such were the qualities of this handful, 100 of them is sufficient to make this nation, the country, the India, the Bharat, clear. I mean, his perspective is very clear. He was not giving a lecture for the general awakening of the people of the world. He says very much about India, that it can be made into number one nation in the world. What else can be an incentive or an inspiration or an encouragement for pursuing excellence? What else can be the encouragement if not this? And Swami Vivekananda says 100 such men can actually bring about this colossal phenomenon. But then he characterizes what this believing also. He says that these people, whom he calls 100 believing young men, are the ones who have the muscles of iron, nerves of steel, and the mind made of the substance of the thunderbolt, and who can come out under the open air, putting the full belief upon their own shoulders and walking out, making out, chalking out their own destiny. He says, can we have such 100 men? Of course, he adds one more word, that fully fortified with the power of the Atma. Unflinching devotion to God. However you may take it, depending on your temperament. He adds one more. One more, all the more for better. But one less doesn't mean you are bad. So, how much ever we can actually gather from these inspirations and make ourselves a persons with solidarity, I think very soon, the who is the 100th, for the simple reason he says that the nation can be brought to the forefront as the first, but still our nation is not yet. Is not yet. So that means, is it that the 100 men which Swami Vivekananda wanted, we don't have yet? I ask this question to myself, whether Dhyanagamyananda, are you in one of that 100? Well, I try to look at all the definitions which Vivekananda wanted to put behind young and behind believing. I somehow had to convince myself that yes, I do qualify. So, the 100 possibly is lacking. There's one guy who is lacking. Maybe there is 99 and the 100 is going to come from one of you. Maybe that one will solve the jigsaw puzzle. If such a destiny can be worked out by each and every individual, Swami Vivekananda says, then the nations coming to the fore will be a matter of history. Definitions. When we talk about strength, Swamiji has a very important recommendation. He says, well, strength is not what life possesses, but life itself is to be called as strength. And strength is life. It's a bijection relationship, not a interjection. And in another place, he also makes a mention that struggle is the sign of life. This is very interesting. Is there anything that runs in your mind when you put strength and struggle next to each other? That's a good, very good point. That's a very good point. Actually, there is a coexistence of the locus of strength and struggle is same. If you will find in a boxing match, okay, the Muhammad Ali against a lesser mortal. Now, Muhammad Ali's one punch can actually take away the life of the other. There is an extreme display of strength. But the other guy is avoiding that punch. He is avoiding that punch and then equally doing his own contribution. Okay, so there is a struggle there. Often we find when there is this display of strength in one place, I thought that guys will be misled to the believing that the struggle will be on the other part, as in the case of the boxing. Correct? When the tiger catches a deer, the poor fawn, the tiger is displaying strength and the fawn is succumbing to struggle. So oftentimes we see that the strength and the struggle are not in the same locus. But I appreciate your acumen. One among you brought out this wonderful idea that the strength and the struggle are actually one the same. It's just that strength is the ability to struggle. Strength itself is an ability, but that ability to struggle. And the man who knows how to struggle better is the person whom you actually call strong. A man who doesn't know how to struggle is the person who actually succumbs to struggle. A child, a kid walks. When the kid walks, oftentimes it falls. And then, what does it do? It controls the falling and then it becomes walking. So often we say that walking is nothing but controlled falling. So you know how to struggle. Unless you subject yourself to the struggle of falling and exercising the control, you will not be able to master the walking. Imagine the ways, how many times we have punctured the tires and broken the handlebars while we learn to the cycling. Particularly those city folks. If not you have caused any serious accidents, at least you might have hurt your own self. Correct? When we know, now it is a very well poised moment for us to contemplate on what will be an absence of strength is. Because struggle is something which is again synonymous to strength, because it is having the same locus. The locus of the strength is the locus of the struggle. We'll come to that point very shortly, but prior to that, let us see, Swami Vivekananda makes a very poignant mention. Yes, madam?
Why are we saying struggle? Why are we not saying effort?
Effort. Shall we hold on to this question for one slide? So the question is struggle and effort synonymous? A man who puts a struggle, do you say that he is putting in effort? Or who is putting in effort, do you say he is struggling? That's a very good question, but that begs one slide transition. So it is weakness, says that absence of strength will also mean absence of struggle. So henceforth, strength and struggle will not have to be seen as something different. So absence of strength also means absence of struggle. And such a state, he says, is weakness, says the Vedanta, which is the cause of all the misery in this world. Weakness is the one cause of suffering. Absence of struggle is presence of suffering. But suffering will put you into another level of struggle. I mean, are we begging the question It's called begging the question, If you ask a question and the question is asking the question to the question, it's called begging the question. Okay, so we are coming to that same loop. Weakness is the one cause of suffering. We become miserable because we are weak. Misery is another synonym for suffering. We are weak. We lie. We steal. We kill. And we commit other crimes. Only because we are weak. We suffer because we are weak. And we die because we are weak. The coward dies every day, while the brave dies only once. No, they are all very popular proverbs. But when we actually want to put them into, day-to-day, actionable, then we find that we are lacking what is called as strength. There was a guy who went to a lecture. And he said, "Sir, your presentation was so fabulous, so smooth, so very well connected." And then, the presenter also became very happy about it. And then he asked, "Well, I'm so happy that you acknowledged whatever happened, whatever you heard. Can you tell me one idea that actually helped you?" He says, "So, don't ask me those things. Your whole presentation was good. I'm just about that. You know what I'm trying to say? No, I don't know what you're trying to say. Unless actually we take back something, there is practically no point in trying to appreciate the speaker or feeling good about a particular music event. Many people went to enjoy music. Okay, after they come out of the music, they feel refreshed. Okay, but how long can the refreshment stay alive? It's a kind of a sensation. So sensation mongering, what actually happens is, it weakens the nervous constitution. Swami Vivekananda says, never be sensation mongering. Sensation, the moment our experience is brought down to the level of sensations, it weakens the mind, because senses are very strong and they drag the mind. The moment I put Rasagulla in your mouth, the sweetness of the Rasagulla is so compelling and so charging that it gives you a lot of energy because of the calories involved, and because of the taste, it arrests the mind, it hijacks the mind. So much so, a diabetic patient very well knows that this particular thing is a poison. But nevertheless, he gives himself the luxury of having one more Rasagulla, and then ends up finally in the surgeon's bed. Such is the call of the nature and the demand of the senses. So, he says, all this is because of weakness. And every time we go back on the resolve that we make, know for sure that is a dying moment. Cowards die every day. How do they die? What is meant by the death of a coward? Death of a coward here is the resolve that he has taken is unable to hold. A resolve, New Year resolves, 2024. How many of you guys have taken resolves? Lift your hand. Nobody? You might have, yes, you have, right? But 2024 or 23 December 31st, if you will take a list, paper like this, and then jot down the number of resolves we have actually fulfilled in the year 2023, we will find that a huge list will suddenly become wide. That practically none of them were seriously pursued, except for possibly getting into IIT. That might have been your resolve and you got it. That's very important. It's not that you keep your resolve of having rasagullas. That you can always fulfill. But to get into a premier institution is a very positive resolve. And you guys have done it. So you guys have actually fulfilled certain very soul-searching resolves. But in how many other ways we have actually failed to keep our resolves. And those are the moments you can tell yourself that those cells, those tissues, those nerves, those blood vessels, those platelets, those corpuscles which were present during the time of taking the resolve, all those cells have died. They were not able to multiply and create an inheritance of the character into your body to make it part of your being. Those holy and elevating cells of your body have died. This is the death which a coward undergoes every day. Did you get the explanation? There are cells which are dying and growing, regenerating every now and then. Medical philosophy says mere chemical supplements will keep this growth happening, will keep this replenishment happening, will keep this anabolic reaction happening till you reach 45, 50, subsequent to which catabolism starts. Further to which you see aging sets in, wrinkles come in, and then we have weakness setting forth, which are all natural born. All of which are natural justification. But those young, when you took the results when you are young, when the cells are fully surcharged with energy, now those cells, they are begging your attention, begging a little bit of piece of your mind, and then asking you to hold on to it. Do we have the strength to hold on to those results in spite of all the compulsion to work against? Because it is easier to drop the resolve than to hold it. You know, in Mahabharata, you know why Kauravas lost the battle? Kauravas lost the battle. You know why? All of us, do you think we are Pandavas or Kauravas? If you want to, what is called as a metaphorical comparison with the two warring parties, whom you will liken yourself with the Pandavas or with the Kauravas? You may not have to answer me. Just answer to yourself. And then listen to the story. So all of you identified? Okay, each one of you? You have identified your warring party? Okay, great. Now Dronacharya was given a tough task by Duryodhana. On the fateful day of Arjuna's resolve. What was the resolve? That I shall bring Jayadratha down before the sun sets. Correct? Otherwise, I am going to lay down my life. This was the stupid resolve which he took without even checking with Krishna. The sad part was, he did not take Krishna into confidence, rather, he took him to overconfidence. That he thought that the Lord is there to protect him, so on and so forth, blah blah. So what happened? Duryodhana came to know about this resolve of Arjuna because they have spies everywhere. And then he told Dronacharya, capture him alive. Capture him alive was the command. And then Dronacharya had the toughest task of his life. When he has to squarely corner the greatest archer he has ever trained. That too. So Arjuna knows all the tricks of Dronacharya. And Dronacharya has to catch this guy. And that was the time when Kauravas started losing. Because it's easy to kill. It's easy to kill than to capture alive. Had the command be to bring him dead, Dronacharya would have done it in a trice. It was not an issue for him at all. But he was given the task of bringing him back alive, which became tough. Now, that's what is actually, that is all about the resolve. The resolve should be that it has to be kept till the end. Now, if you take a resolve and then give it in the middle, then that resolve has no value. With every resolve, you are investing your physical energy, intellectual energy, your something that I bring out an idea called causal energy. There is a causal energy. I am not speaking about the fourth one. I have already told you, in the first semester I will not speak about the fourth one. In the second semester, we will complete all the talks in the first semester that we broached. We will complete it with the fourth factor in the second semester. So, we have the physical energy, we will come to that. So, what happened is that the resolve that Dronacharya was to take on that day imposed by was a resolve which he could not keep. He exhausted all the energies that he had with him and he could not capture. That's the reason why your resolves have to be attainable. Do not take up New Year resolves as to become the Prime Minister of the country for that year. Maybe for 10 years down the line, yeah, but that cannot be the New Year resolve, right? New Year resolve has to be what you will do in that footing. So you have to make pragmatic resolves. And pragmatism means what? That which is rational, reasonable, appeals to your senses, and appeals to the immediate social requirements. That's all about pragmatism. So your resolves have to be pragmatic. So, what makes you weak in the first place? I asked for one slide, right? A couple of more slides are being required. Okay, so coming back to this weakness, it is because of the weakness we give up the resolve, right? But is weakness itself is the disease or weakness is a symptom? I always have been misled to believing that weakness is a disease in itself. No. As I told the other day, rather I keep telling myself every now and then that the tonsillitis is a problem in itself or an indicator of a problem. The tonsillitis is not a problem in itself. It is an indicator of the problem which is going to seriously affect your lungs. That a priori shows up as tonsillitis. Correct? So the occurrence of the weakness in your constitution itself is not the disease. The weakness is also a symptom. And there are so many ways the symptom shows up. Okay, let us introspect a little. This is a kind of a rigmarole thought process. The rigmarole thought process is, see, when things go wrong, you try out 2-3 projects, okay? So they don't really yield results. So what do you then do? Do you sit like this? I've lost everything. No? And that's not the way we are supposed to. So how do you tackle this? Now what you do is you immediately take up some easier tasks and accomplish the easier tasks and get into the momentum of fulfillment. Get into the momentum of fulfillment. So one of the easier tasks is to make your room tidy. On a Sunday morning, after attending the Vivekananda study circle, the first thing that you would do, go back to your room, is to do the laundry and do your little bit tidification of your rooms. So when you do that, after that it looks good and clean. If not, you can put even incense sticks and then. So you see, that's how and put on the lights. And then you see the whole thing is freshening up, livening up. And then once the ambience starts getting lifted up rather, and then you will find that you are becoming automatically inspirational. And then slowly take up a problem book which you have done some time back and look at the problems that you have solved already. The moment you see the problem that you have solved already, it gives you the confidence that you can solve some more problems. Okay, so the objective is that we are not merely satisfied with the very basic things like eating, drinking, talking, sleeping. The demonstration of strength comes in living beyond these expectations. Do you or do you not? If I ask that question, not today, but the day I feel the weakest. Remember, when you are strong, you don't require guided meditation. You don't require a lecture or a reminder. Because now there is rain in your field. You are going to get a plenty of harvest. But have we saved enough for the day of the drought? On those days, what am I going to do? So at that question, we always are forced to thinking negatively. But we are not as negative as we think about. We are really very strong. So how do you actually master the strength and then come up with all the inspiration that are apparently seem to have lost sight of? Ask this question, my dear, am I just a being who is happy with just eating, drinking, talking, sleeping? Certainly no, there is some higher wants within me which may make me want to go to the next realm of existence. Correct? There is an urge which is always telling us, go higher, higher. Something different from before. Repeatedly working like an automaton is not something which is going to characterize a human being. A machine, even an animal doesn't do the same thing again and again. Its working pattern will be slightly different at least. Okay. But sometimes you may go through a very easy course. But then still you may feel that there is something which is lacking within you. There is a sensation which you would like to overcome. There is a time when you feel that the guy comes, there is a guy could be your own part of a being, or a person, or an institution, or a gathering, a support. Wish that something comes and helps me away. So these are some of the moments where the soul which is bending towards excellence has lost its way and gets into a serious soul searching activity as of where it can recoup all its strength. So that's when you will find that you already have a lot of answers to these questions. And from these answers, you will be able to cull out your agenda. Now comes, a bit late though, a question of what is an effort and what a struggle is about. Correct? So let us take an example of swimming. When somebody says, I am struggling to swim, I am struggling to swim, what will you take him for? When I was 36, that's when I graduated out of the training center from Belur Math. And I never thought I would be posted in the Belur Math grounds. And we have the beautiful Ganga flowing by. And then the then General Secretary Maharaj, Swami Vivekananda ji, he told me, so you're going to live here, make use of Ganga. But each instruction has its own implications. So, being a spiritual savant, how I should have understood his, with respect and recognition, his advice is that Ganga is a Brahmavari, is a river which is surcharged with purity. So, use the Ganga means use the Ganga and become pure. That would have been the correct interpretation, which will come from a monk. So I should have taken it that light. While part of my being was desiring that, the other part of the being, very naughty being, it checked, Acha, Ganga is a river. If I have to make use of it, I have to swim. So let me learn swimming. I was thrown into the river, and that was a death experience. I have never touched the water beyond my ankle. Beyond my ankle, I have never touched it. But that was the first time I tried to venture into the water, and I got almost drowned, I should say. Struggling. But that was an effort. That was an effort, first effort from my side to learn swimming. But then I was struggling to stay afloat. Days into weeks, fortunately not weeks into months. Within 12 days, I understood the balance. And I could keep myself, but not strong enough to face the current. When the river is placid, that time I could keep myself afloat and go about 10 to 15 feet into and then come back hurriedly. That was indeed another struggle. Because I had to come back before the river gets into spate. The current in Ganga, particularly in the Belur, is two ways. Morning it will go southward and evening it will go northward. So since the flow is both ways, so if somewhere you get drowned, don't worry, it will again pull you back to the same. So people will not lose your dead body. They will get back your dead body. Just have to wait a little. But then there was a struggle. I can clearly feel the amount of palpitation that was running through the heart while I was trying to hold on to the breath as well as the balance. Only those who underwent the struggle know that. Almost Bengalis are very good in swimming, so I don't have to tell you guys about it. A few of them. How about you? You haven't swam? Okay. Good. Okay, so then comes what is called as once you really become good, right? Then you can cross the Ganga. Ganga is about 800 meters. So you can easily cross the Ganga and come back. But then the thing doesn't stop there. You know this task of crossing the English Channel? It's a event which happens every now and then. It's a sporting event and it is run by some association. And then you have to apply for it and then you have to pass. You have to pass some you have to have some qualification. And then you will be allowed to go through this arduous task of swimming across the channel, 33.7 kilometers, one stretch. Sorry friends, there won't be any pit stops. Okay? There won't be any tea breaks. No lunches served. 33.7 kilometers at one stretch. You will have to do it. It started way back in 1857, sometimes. And the first guy, he took about 50 odd hours to do that. And then came 2003 or so, first time in under 7 hours it was clocked. And in 2023, just last year, possibly in the month of May, another guy did in under 7. 2 minutes slower. Sorry, faster. 2 minutes faster. Please keep doing that. And in 1959, Arpita Saha, she is a Bengali. She crossed the English Channel in the month of September. In the second attempt, there are two mentions. One says that she took 14 hours and 20 minutes. There is another that says 16 hours and 20 minutes. I don't know which one to take. But whichever it is, The important thing about her feat is that she is the first Asian woman to do that. Of course, that speaks about being an Indian also as the first. That's a struggle. That's not easy. Every moment you will have to struggle against the compulsion of the body to take rest. Move it. That is the display of strength in the pursuit of excellence. And you can clearly see there is a demonstration of strength here. There is a perpetual struggle and continuous effort. All these three are synonymous. And when we talk about the levels of strength, naturally it begins with the physical being. In the physical being, when we say it's it actually goes even beyond your constitution. It's not just the power in the muscle. Sometimes it's even power in the prosperity that we have. That is also physical. Sometimes we fail to reckon this fact. They say either use muscle or use money. This work has to be done. But something else is led to the wings. I'll come to that a little later. So this muscle or money, when you say, that's physical. That's totally physical. But nevertheless, it cannot be sustained unless we know what is the source of this physical energy. In the complete works of Vivekananda, in the second volume, he brings about how to actually contemplate or rather investigate on this ability of strength. He says, we see a man take up a huge weight. We see his muscles swell, and all over his body we see signs of exertion. And we think that the muscles are the powerful things. We think. But it is the thin thread-like things, the nerves, which bring power to the muscles. The moment one of these threads is cut off from reaching the muscles, they are not able to work at all. Paralysis. The muscles get paralyzed if they don't have an electrical connection with the nerves. Now tell us, I am asking myself, tell me, is it that the muscle that is strong or the nerve which is activating the muscle is strong? Where does the strength come from? So this is a question to ponder. Okay. Swamiji doesn't stop here, he moves ahead, but I am interjecting with a slide. He says, see, beyond these physical limits, naturally we know that the man has adequately employed his intellectual abilities as a display of strength. Because he knows, as a quadruped, the life of being a cheetah or a tiger or a lion is certainly a remarkable display of bravery, courage and strength. But they are also in perpetual fear. They too are in perpetual fear. Whenever there is a disturbance in their environment, you can clearly see a shrill and a thrill going through the skin, and then they are getting alerted. Why? Why is it so? That's because even they, much easier to actually justify, doesn't require this much emphasis, but even those which are metaphorically symbols of power, strength and courage, even they are living through their life in grip of fear, hunger, So the man, fortunately, because of the sixth, he said, now being on fours, let us call shots. And let us be on twos. And let us put our hand above and then climb the trees. While the terrain may be terrorsome, the tree may be a travel of peace. So he started climbing. The chimpanzees and the gorillas, they were all efficient predators and they know how to escape. But then that again became entirely physical. But that was the first opportunity it got for thinking for itself. If you look at the finger, the palm of a chimpanzee or a gorilla, these four fingers, even though they are nimble, appears to be nimble in our case, structurally they are pretty identical. The thumb, however, you will see is pretty much located at the lower end of the palm. So much so that the top four fingers do not get any support of the thumb. They don't get any support. So as a result, you will find that they did all the hanging and jumping and clawing only with the help of these four fingers, and the thumb was looking like a vestige, undergrown, immature and incomplete, much less undersized compared to the other four fingers, which are clubby. Full demonstration of power if you see those fingers. One slap, sufficient. The most worst thing you can expect from a gorilla, not a hug, but the slap. So strong it is that it can instantly collapse you. Now you see the human being, the same thumb, that thumb has now become clubby, while the rest of the fingers have become nimble. Now this clearly actually marked the evolution, coterminous with the evolution of the body. The intellectual evolution and the physical evolution are corroborated. Now the strengths are not to be found in the muscles. This is the message we have to get. While of course it is necessary for the body to be strong, but it is not that the body is the only forms of strength. But it is now to be transmuted into the plane of intellect. Now what is meant by intellectual strength? First and foremost, even the body strength actually stems forth from the intellectual strength. The early man started thinking that why is it that I have to use my body force for my survival? He started thinking. As an ape, he started thinking, can I use a weapon? I see so many trees, I see so many twigs, huge logs. Can I make use of these things? I see fire. Can I make use of the fire? I see stones. Can I make use of those hard objects for my survival? The moment he started putting his mind onto these little things, his thumb started growing upward. He says, yes, my dear, yes, you can. The illimitable energy from within started showing up in its variegated colors and powers. And they started manifesting one after another after he started asking the question, do I have a way out from this so-called beastly existence? Remember, they were all still well-grown chimpanzees and gorillas. When such a thought process started evolving into the human constitution, the ape's constitution, so to say, now the body will have to adjust itself to support that. The moment such thoughts started crossing his mind, there was a change in the form of his body. He was able to lift a stone. He was able to hold a pole. He was able to wield a dagger. The thumb started getting used. So the evolution of the physical strength, therefore, is not in the body. These tiny nerves bring the power from something still finer, and that again in its turn brings it from something finer still, thought, and so on. So the early human being, he thought, is this the way I have to live? Can't I live better? Don't I deserve a little more comfort, little more joy, little more personal time? Should I have to be in, can't I have a system which will at least reduce the time of my being in fear and sleep at night peacefully? While I am ready to fight the early day battle, at least let my night move smooth peacefully. Is it not a simple requirement of a living being? Can't I fulfill that? Such a question, when it started throbbing up in his body had to undergo a change. So it is fine that is really the seat of the power. When we say fine, we mean the fine forces, the finer part of your constitution. Of course, we can see the movements in the gross, but when fine movements take place, we cannot see them. When a gross thing moves, we catch it, and thus we naturally identify movements with things which are gross. But all the power in reality is in fine. Vivekananda says in one place, how many senses do we have? 5. And he says, what puts a limit for 5? I mean, can you expect a person to ask this stupid question? Or rather, a question which will beg the question for an answer? Or rather, a question just to mislead the public? How would you take this question? He says, what restricts the number of senses to be merely 5? Panchabhutas. For each of the bhutas you have one. So the 5 and 5 matches well, corroborates. But life is not all about mathematics. Why should these 5 and that 5 tally? So Vivekananda asks the soul-searching questions. Come out of that rigmarole pattern of thinking that you are given only this to perform. You are nothing but a 3 cubic feet body. You are nothing but something which is made out of tissues and helpless, therefore. You are nothing but the mass of little bit of joys and pleasures, pain and providence, prosperity and poverty, all in a sort of a mix, and you are just that and no more. This is what nature is repeatedly trying to tell us. Swami Vivekananda is helping us to ask the soul-searching questions. What limits the number of senses to be merely 5? And he makes a very bold statement, very bold statement, that the moment the man feels the necessity to experience a different kind of a force, the 6th sense will start evolving, prophetic. This is what makes Swami Vivekananda different from the other philosophers. The philosophers all categorizes the forces which are known to the human being. A prophet is the one which paves the way for the new forces to arise in you. He creates the new channels and new possibilities and opportunities. He says, the moment you feel the necessity for a 6th force, and he even names the force. He says, for instance, the electricity and magnetism. He says, the moment I feel the necessity to have a cognate feeling of this force, I will have a 6th sense developing within me. This is what Vivekananda says. For that, he took just an example. Because 5 bhutas, 5 souls already existed. So people will ask, where is the 6th? In order to just satisfy that curiosity, He just put the sixth force, so to say. It need not be just this, anything. What is it, which force you want to manifest? You will be able to bring out. This is what, in fact, the five senses that we have currently within us is only for we common, stupid, dull human beings who thinks that it is intelligent. It is superior. But in effect, it's dull and stupid because it is tied to this five. The next realm of existence is exploring 5 plus plus. 5 plus plus, not to the inclusion of 5, but to the denial of 5. Because the moment you include 5, it puts restriction. I put a screen between you and me, I can't see you. But is my sight aided by space or by the power that is there within me? Which is aiding the sight? Is it the space that is aiding the sight? Is the proximity? Or is it the power of seeing that is helping me to see? You may say both. Oh, sir, this is Mumba Jumba, unscientific, so on and so forth. It's quite likely that the discussion may get into that front. But Vivekananda asks the simple question that there were personalities in the past, which I myself have witnessed, says Vivekananda, who are able to recount the tales of the distant past and the unhappened future. In fact, he himself scripted one such tale about an opera singer in France. So he says, there are much more powers than what these 5 senses are. So you see, we do not see any movement in the mind because the movement is so intense that we cannot perceive it. But if by any science, any investigation, we are helped to get hold of these finer forces, which are the cause of the expression itself will be under the control. After the intellectual comes the causal. Somebody was there. I wish the same person was there in today's class. Last time he asked. Correct? So you say that skill in action. So why should there be a skill in action at all? Where is it going to finally lead you up to? Correct? Why should you at all try to aim for excellence? Why is it at all that you have to pursue something higher? Okay, even if you may do, there is a need for within, somehow you do. Where does this finally end up to? Okay, you wanted a degree, you wanted to get into IIT, you got it, fantastic. Okay, you want to have a degree, a good degree, you have it. Maybe you want to have some few more laurels, okay, you have it. You had it rather. And then maybe you would like to have some adventurous indulgence, so to say, in the world. Professionally, personally, providential favored, you do get that. Okay, so what? What next? So this what next is something which makes you keep thriving and striving for higher and higher and higher, or lower and lower and lower. We don't know. We don't know where it leads to. It's just by the demand of the mind. We are being dragged and misled to the believing that we are going for something higher. But what is the quality, what is the blue litmus test that you will do to all your hankerings and wants and wanderings to say it is higher than what it was before? How do you know? That's the causal part. The causal is the force that is acting within you, which demands a lot of attention, and surreptitiously, hiddenly, it's a hidden force, and it clandestinely, I should say, it impacts your consciousness, impacts your so-called your waking state. Early morning you wake up, You go to the mess and then you serve yourself a hot cup of coffee. Do you have? You do have, right? Some do, some do not. But okay, those who does, those who do. But then on one particular day, fateful day, the milk got spoiled. Has it happened? Has it ever happened? The milk got spoiled and the coffee was not to the taste. You will be cursing everything under the sun. So, now tell me friends, that our mere action of going and helping ourselves to the luxury of enjoying a cup of coffee led us to cursing everyone on the planet, in the planet. Was spoiled milk, was spilled milk that could have served several million organisms. It didn't serve me, but that means there is a force within which is driving me to the point. It was not coffee. The coffee doesn't have the capability to make you pass those experiments. I'm just taking the example next year. There may be another instance where you lost your country. But it is never the external circumstances that guide you. You are already in that state. There is something which is within you just put you in that state, and in that state, since you do not get it, the energy which has been already welled up is now shown unrestrained, comes up. So where did the strength get collected from? That is from the cause. So there is another sweet term for it, it's called emotional. But the word emotional is often misunderstood. So I wish to put a more, generic term, which is cause. It cannot be always emotion that alone is the cause. There may be a kind of what is called as sense of duty. Now, is the sense of duty physical in nature? Is the sense of duty intellectual in nature? Then what? But that is the one which is forcing you to do certain things. So, that forms the cause. A person who is suffering in the street, finally you go and help them. You become empathetic with them. You are swept over by your way of teaching. So, there the emotion comes in place. But again, there is another sense which triggers the emotion to come. Emotion is not independent of itself. That's the cause. There is a little bubble. Now comes the full-fledged, full-blown example. There is a little bubble, the same bubble that we did in our meditation, which was coming through a clean sheet of water from the depths unknown, from the bottom of the lake. We do not see it coming all the time. We see it only when it bursts on the surface. So we can perceive thoughts only after they develop a great deal or after they become actions. We constantly complain that we have no control over our actions, over our thoughts. But how can we have it? See, the second passage is a very, very important thing. I think this will be a take home from today's talk. If we can get control over the fine movements, if we can get hold of thought at the root, before it has become thought. See, how is it that we can catch something before even it has a form? Vivekananda says such a thing is possible. Before it has become thought, before it has become action, then it will be possible for us to control the whole. This controlling the whole is what makes our pursuit to excellence complete. Remember, excellence is not to be measured by the quantum of output you get out of it. It's never scientific in that respect. never scientific evidence. There is another thing which is deeper to causal that is reserved for the second stage. I would like to take one particular theme for the concluding portion. You know, somebody met Vivekananda in the West. Swami Vivekananda, you know, went to the West against all odds. It was not that, you know, he was welcomed. He didn't he didn't know the people, neither the place. Only the language was to his advantage. And of course, his sagacious being. But they did not care for that. Who will care for the wandering monk? So when he went there, he found the living a little more complicated. He was robbed, he was insulted, he was slighted, he was mocked, he was played at. And on top of it, he was not prepared for that climate even. He took a set of clothes which were meant for summer, when the biting cold has already set in. Famished, practically no money, had to resort to begging, which is otherworldly for that piece of the planet. Wherever he went, there was opulence, and people were floating in luxury. They did not care for the poor. Under that circumstances, certainly his prayers and providence favoring, he was able to make that speech on 11th September in the Chicago, subsequent to which, you know, everything is history. But prior to that, is a chapter which I urge every youth of India to read, because the Chicago posture of Vivekananda is very deceptive. It was not the beginning. That posture was not the beginning. That posture was the outcome of the making of Vivekananda. So we need to know how the Vivekananda was made. We will take a bit as an elaborate topic on another day. So the way he made himself was along the lines of the teachings of his master, belief, convictions, and he had his own plan and realizations. And he said that people are floundering in too much of sense enjoyments. And sense enjoyments is making their mind weak. So people will have to, if they want to become strong, you will have to withdraw your mind from sense indulgence. Wherever he went, he made that as the main theme of talk. He says everybody is given to practice of religion, but the moment you speak about renunciation, the hall becomes empty. People vanish. They want both the joys of this world as well as the fruits of renunciation. How is it possible? It's not possible. So then somebody asked, Sir, why is it that you are against sense indulgence? It is natural for us to indulge in senses. Of course, I am giving you the abstract of the conversation, not in the exact language, but if you follow the exact language, it will be along the same lines. Okay, so he said, why is it that you are against it? Because it is so natural for us to indulge in senses. If it was not, then why did the nature give us this power? It's a very, very pragmatic point. It's a very pragmatic point, right? If the nature really didn't want you to indulge in the senses, why did it give the senses at all? It gave you the power so that you can use the power. It made you strong so that you can use the strength. It gave you intelligence so that you can be what you are. So if nature has given this, and why do you say we should not use it? Hold on to that question. Now, let's see whether we should be master to the nature or subordinate to the nature. A river was flowing from north to south. It was a placid river, there was a gentle stream, and there was a gharial which was facing the north with wide open mouths. Gharials are the ones which open the mouth, and they do that for cooling their body. They generate a lot of heat. So they do this aerobic exercise to cool their body. Anyway, but when these many fishes are running, it is more than an invitation for the gharial to have a feast. Correct? They are all flowing along the current. To flow along the current is much easier for any living organism. And you see, a shoal of fish is moving along. And what has happened? It easily becomes a prey to the gharial, which is ready with its open mouth. Now, if such a drifting fish needs to help itself, it has to go against the tide. The moment it tries to go against the tide, it escapes from the face of the peril. Metaphorically, this brings the idea that the more we try to manifest, so to say, what we understand and what we call as natural and nature, that belong to nature, it's like getting ourselves into the sinkhole. But the moment we try to exploit the forces of the nature, but not go along the dictates of the nature. The forces belong to the nature. You cannot go beyond it. But doesn't actually have to become a slave and follow the dictates of the nature. There may be a lot of strength within you. You can either sleep away, or while away, or play away, or pray and meditate with the same energy, or do a research experiments in your lab. What are you going to use your strength for? The compulsions of the nature have to be understood as whether it is a direction or a dictation. If it is a dictate, you will have to overcome it. Because all the time, senses have been dictating the mind to have a way with its operations. And the mind has been helplessly led into that. So to relieve the mind from these senses and give a direction to these forces, even that is within the nature. Why is it that we are not paying attention to that part of the nature? So people will call it higher nature, lower nature. This higher lower actually brings in another confusion. The last slide. Every word of it is actually, something which Vivekananda went through in his life. The 5 years of his wandering in India, subsequently reaching the shores of the foreign soil, he underwent every bit of it in both word and spirit. Struggle was my motto. Again, that struggle was an attempt to manifest the strength, not for mere survival. Struggle, still I say. When it was all dark, I used to say struggle. When light is breaking in, I still say struggle. Be not afraid, my children. Look not up in that attitude of fear towards the infinite or infinite starry vault, as if it would crush you. Wait, in a few hours more, the whole of it will be under your feet. It was written to Arsinga Perumal from US in 1894. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Namaste.
As you have mentioned that thought is the one which is controlling the diagnosis and the outcomes. And you also said that thought can also be controlled before it has taken the form. So how do you